Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Dental Up Podcast, brought to you by Keating Dental Arts, a full-service, award-winning dental laboratory. Each week, you'll learn tips and techniques from real-world dentists, bringing you in-depth interviews, motivating stories, current events, and sports. Here's your host, Sean Keating.
Hey everyone, Sean here. Welcome to another episode of the Dental Up Podcast. Our guest this week graduated from the USC School of Dentistry with the unique distinction of receiving the Daniel Cave Memorial Award and the Lewis E. Ford Memorial Award for achievements in prosthodontics. He practiced prosthodontics at Bolling Air Force Base in Washington, D.C., achieving the rank of major. He has published numerous articles and has been part of several publications worldwide. He is a very active member and supporter of his community and offers continuous support to charities such as Smile Train, Wounded Warriors, the USO, and Angelitos de Oro. Practicing from Newport Beach, California, please welcome Dr. David W. Eggleston, DDS. How's it going, Dr. Eggleston?
It's going great.
Thank you so much for coming on by. It's a neat thing. You're local and you're here in the lab with me, and most of my guys, I'm doing them out of state, and so I don't see them, and so it's kind of neat to have the doctor right in front of me. So thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. You know, I always start off a little bit talking about sports, and I know you're a big USC guy, and we're going to get into that, but yeah, USC Trojan fan, are you? Or?
Absolutely. Yep.
Fight on the, what are you, football? You like football? Or?
Yeah, it's a little harder this year than most years, but but we're backing them all the way.
Yeah, I tell you, man, you can see I got a lot of footballs and stuff from the guys and different football teams, but USC, my brother went to dental school there too. He was like back class 81, but he was president of his class. And man, I go through your bio here, dude, and I've had a lot of bios I've talked to in the last 3 years of doing these things, and this is the biggest, most informative bio, and you've got so much. You're probably the smartest dude I've ever come across, and I know I see your dentistry, and you practice some of the best dentistry. I mean, top notch, top 1% for sure. But thank you so much, man. And I say we go ahead and let you dental up. And I always like to start off asking the doctor, okay, why did you get into dentistry? And at what point did you think, I want to be a dentist?
Very early. I wanted to be a dentist in the 4th grade.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, I did my vocational report in the 7th grade on dentistry. And my dad had some friends that were dentists, and I shadowed them when I was in grade school.
Oh, you're kidding.
And I just thought this was the coolest thing ever. And so that was it. I decided to be a dentist, and here I am.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That is so cool. 4th grade, man. That's so neat. I was like 8th grade, and my brother's going to dental school. He's the oldest one in our family, and so he'd make me my mouth guards and stuff. So he always kind of said, Sean, you're going to be a dental tech, and I'll be a dentist. And so I kind of knew from then on, 8th grade on. And sure enough, I went into dental technology school. And then when I graduated, he goes, Sean, guess what? I'm specializing in endodontics, and I don't need your services. I was on my own. It's like, what the heck? So it kind of worked out, because if I would have been work for him, it would have been a one practice dentist. And I went on to work for, a big lab that turned into a big lab, and learned a lot, and worked there for a long time, and then started my own lab in 2002. But it's so neat to have you here, man. I just can't thank you enough. But so tell me a little bit where you went to dental school, and tell me a little bit about that if you could.
Well, I went to USC for dental school, graduated way back in 1970.
Yeah.
And then stayed for the pros training and finished that in 1972.
Okay.
And then 2 years in the Air Force. It was during the Vietnam War.
Oh, you're kidding.
And I had the distinct privilege of treating 6 of our POWs that came back.
Oh, you're kidding. That's
and that
so awesome.
was, at that time, I was so impressed with them. I thought all of dental school, all of my grad pros, if I did nothing else but treat these guys, it'd be worth it.
No kidding.
Yeah, they were amazing. They were in captivity from 4 to 8 years.
Oh, you're kidding.
And a lot of trauma to their teeth, a lot of reconstruction.
Unbelievable.
So they were amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Good for you. So that is so neat.
That's the highlight of my career.
That's awesome. I love to hear that story. That's really neat. Yeah. So what when you got through with dental school and stuff, now did you go out and start your own practice? Did you work as an associate? Tell me a little bit about that if you could.
Well, I had the distinct honor and privilege of going in as an associate with Daniel Gordon, who was he's still a marvel. He was president of a number of major organizations, the CDA, the American College of Prosthodontists. There's still an annual award in his name.
Okay.
And he passed away in 1984.
Okay.
So he is one of our all-time leaders.
No kidding.
And so it was a big deal for me to go in as an associate with him.
Oh, absolutely.
And the first day I was there, he came in with a broken arm from playing tennis.
Oh,
and so I had to treat his patients until he healed, and that gave me a good start. And we became best of friends, and I worked with him as his associate until 1978, and then he decided to retire.
Okay.
And I told him there was a building opening up in Fashion Island in Newport Beach, and I would set up an office there, and instead of retiring, he could come in just whenever he wanted, just to practice part-time and that, because I was going to buy his practice. Mm-hmm. And as everyone knows, when you buy goodwill, it's not tax deductible.
Oh.
So I was going to have to come up with a lot of cash after tax dollars. And I had this truly genius idea that he would come in and be my associate, and I would pay him an extra 10% of whatever he produced, and that would pay off the purchase of his practice.
Huh.
So he ended up generating the money that I used to buy his practice.
Oh, man.
And so at the time, I had a formula where I paid the dentist associates 40%. I paid the staff 40%, and I used 20% to pay the overhead.
Unbelievable.
And so I paid him 50%. And his fees were higher. So when he did a crown, I actually did better than when the other dentists in the office did a crown. And so after 5 years, the agreement was for 5 years, I just kept it. I said, you're still on 50%. And then he developed pancreatic cancer and passed away. And just like he had a backache, and 3 months later, he's dead.
Oh, can you believe that?
And so, count your blessings. And but he was truly great pioneer in dentistry. He was on the faculty at USC, and that's where I first met him. He was my mentor. Okay. And he was the guy. So,
man, what a great thing there.
So he passed away in 1984, which left a big void. And then I had great bit of luck, and Bruce Coy was looking for a spot. And so he came in and he took over that space in the office and stayed with me until 3 months ago. He retired.
Okay.
At age 73, he finally retired. And so that was kind of the way I practiced. I turned into a owner of a practice from being an associate with Dan Gordon.
No kidding.
And now we've expanded their room. Our initial office was about 3,000 square feet. Now we're at 4,500.
No kidding.
And we've got 2 labs and 11 operatories, and we have 6 dentists. And so it's
don't you have like 4 ceramists too, or something like 2 or 3?
Yeah, we've got 7 lab techs in the office.
A couple of them are like wizards, man. I hear things. It's so neat because I've just known about you in the industry. I know a lot of dentists, and we have a bunch of dentists out of Newport that I've worked with, but Eggleston's always been the dude. And I'm like, man, and I was just so proud when I, heard that you were sending us digital cases, and it was just like, gosh, it was just like, yeah, we better do good for this guy, because man, but we get everything. It's so sweet from you, and it's just, I'm so thankful for that. But, and then, you do these models. I mean, we get a model, and you do a lot of study models, and like we make like 8 different models, and I'm telling my guys, like, really? He goes, yeah, he always does it too. So tell me a little bit about why I'm doing some of these study models on the cases.
Well, I picked up the scanner. 3Shape scanner.
Best one, baby.
And it is. Yeah, I love that thing. And so we have it now I don't know, 4 or 5 months, and using it more and more. But I do a number of legal cases, and when we examine or do an independent dental review of a patient, instead of making stone casts that can get chipped and crack and all this, we scan it and have it printed in acrylic, and there's no bubbles, there are no streaks, it just looks gorgeous.
Oh, they're beautiful models.
And so we have that, and then I need a printed model for all of the attorneys involved, and the patient typically wants one as well, and then we keep one. So yeah, I'll have 4 or 5 sets
That's
printed
neat.
off, and why not? The 5th one is just as accurate and perfect as the first one.
They're so amazing. It's
And
great, yeah.
so I've been using that for legal cases, and so
You're really big into that. I mean, tell me a little bit about that. I mean, you're doing, I'll get into a story here in a little bit, but you helped us out in a situation, but you do a lot of that with you're like the authority, when it comes to legal cases and this and that. Tell me a little bit about that. How'd you get started with that?
Well, it started a number of years ago. It's always been a relatively small percentage of my practice, as I spent a lot more time treating patients than doing legal work. But it started out with some attorneys in the area, and it's because I've gone through some dental organizations and have credentials.
Yes.
Because jury, they don't know what we're talking about. And we go to court, and both sides are battling it out in jury.
Yeah.
And the jury's going to look, this guy was president of this and president of that, and this other guy doesn't have those credentials, so I'm going with the first guy.
Exactly.
And so that's what attracts attorneys. They want to find someone with the most credentials. So
exactly.
So I've been president of my specialty board and president of a number of dental organizations, and that just seems to be very good for legal cases. And I only take cases that I think we're on the right side. I won't take a case if I think we're on the wrong side.
Yes.
So I do both defense and plaintiff, and I won't take a plaintiff case if I think it's a frivolous lawsuit, and I won't take a defense case if I think the dentist really screwed up, and they've got to really screw up for me to take it. I mean, really screw up.
Yes.
And so I'm talking fraud and spoliation of records and gross negligence beyond anything you can imagine.
No, I bet.
The dental board will review any case that settles for more than $10,000. Any kind of a verdict from a jury, a judgment from a judge, or a decision from an arbitrator. Anything over $10,000, the dental board will review.
Okay.
And then they review it, and they will typically ask the plaintiffs, if it's against the dentist, the plaintiff's expert for all of his or her notes, records, everything that dealt with the case.
Yeah.
So the dental board calls in me in this particular case and gets all of my material that I used for the lawsuit and the court. So they have that, and then they decide with another expert reviewing it whether they should file an accusation, whether there was violation of the Dental Practice Act. And that can be gross negligence, multiple acts of negligence, incompetence, unprofessional conduct, fraud, spoliation of dental records. So any of even one of those will cause an accusation against the dentist.
Oh, I bet.
So they take 3 years to put that together.
Oh, man.
And the only reason they take 3 years is because the statute of limitations is 3 years.
Oh, you're kidding.
If the statute of limitations was a week, they could do it in a week. Okay?
Yeah.
Because they have all the material to do it. Okay.
Exactly.
So they take 3 years, and then on the last day of 3 years, they file a lawsuit against the dentist and as an accusation, and it goes into administrative law. So then it goes to the Attorney General's office, and then it takes 2 years to get on the docket for an administrative hearing in front of an administrative law judge. And that, when that occurs, then the administrative law judge decides whether the dentist should have discipline on the license, whether probation, revocation, or nothing done. And so So it takes a total of 1 year in civil court and 5 years in administrative law before the dental license is determined to be revoked or suspended or on probation or no discipline at all.
In the meantime, that dentist is practicing and still doing everything?
Yes, the dentist continues to practice, but then additional complaints to the dental board are added to the accusation. So there's only one accusation, but it could have 5, 6, 7, 8 patients on it.
Exactly.
And so each patient that comes forward with a complaint is then investigated and then added to the accusation if it's determined there was anything in those categories. Mainly, the main categories are the gross negligence, and incompetence. Those are the ones that the dental board gets excited about and gets to the point where it goes before an administrative judge. The Attorney General's office doesn't have any dentists, and they handle these accusations against dentists, physicians, attorneys, beauticians, anyone that's licensed by the Department of Consumer Affairs.
Unbelievable.
And so whenever they have one, they request a member of that profession to be the consultant for the case, and it's a volunteer position. And so for a period of 5 years, it's strictly volunteer work.
Unbelievable.
And we need to do it, Dennis. We're the ones handing out diplomas, and when we make a mistake, we need to
man up to it.
Yeah, we need to protect the public.
Absolutely.
And then there are cases where the dentist didn't do anything wrong. I was an expert for the defense in a case in Hawaii that went on for 14 years.
Unbelievable.
And in Hawaii, they don't settle these things up in a matter of a couple of years like we do in California. And for 14 years, this dentist had to go through all of the depositions and interrogatories and briefs and mandatory settlement conferences and all of these procedures. And then he was cleared. I mean, it was because he never did anything wrong in the first place.
Exactly. And it just gets drawn out so much. And that's amazing. What kind of advice can he give to some of our GPs and our practitioners out there? Do's and don'ts to keep yourself out of some, just the golden rule, just try to do the right thing. I mean, it's common sense, basically, isn't it, in a way?
It is. We're all required to take a two-hour course in California law every 2 years.
Oh, really?
And so every dentist is exposed to a lecture in that particular topic on maintaining proper records and informed consent and practicing within the Dental Practice Act and never ever change any records.
Yeah, guys, you got to get it together and be good. Do the right thing.
Well, they need to be aware that the ink can be dated.
Oh, really?
Okay, so there are forensic experts that can look at the written dental records. And when they say date the ink, I thought there was some chemical in the ink that they would carbon date or something like that. It's not it at all. When you write on a sheet of paper, it leaves an imprint of what you've written on the sheet below it.
No kidding.
And so these forensic experts, they gather the original dental records and they go through and they look for imprints on the sheets of paper that were made from writing on the sheet above it. And when you write on a sheet that and you date it in March, it shouldn't leave an imprint on a sheet that was dated the same year in August.
Whoa.
Because then they know that it was rewritten after August and dated in March.
Oh, and then there's also keystrokes, like computers, and they check keystrokes and all that stuff they can do, can't they? Or is that
if you have paperless charts and you make an entry and sometime in the future you change the entry, the computer notes that. And so you can't get around it. Okay. So dentists that are using paperless charts and even written charts, if you want to make a change in the chart, go ahead and write it and just date it. It's perfectly legal to remember something that you didn't remember to write in at the time that was contemporaneous. So if you think of something later and you want to change the record, you can do that. You can add to it. Just date it when you make that addition, and that's very legal. It's perfectly fine.
That's amazing. So you've been doing peer reviews a long time, peer review board for a while, or?
I was for the American College of Prosthodontists. We had a period of time in California when peer review was first started, and it was started by Dan Gordon, incidentally. So I was in on it, being his associate. He, as he was working on it, I would be talking to him. So initially, all of the specialty organizations handled peer review in the state of California for their specialty. So, which is what peer review, the definition is. If I have a complaint against me as a prosthodontist, it's nice to be reviewed by other prosthodontists.
Absolutely.
So that's the way it was for a number of years. And for 9 years, I served as on the peer review committee for the American College of Prosthodontists for the state of California. And
you're like the president of that. I mean, you've been a part of that association from forever. I mean, it's pretty amazing, all your different fellowships and presidencies, and dang, it's just, man, you're like Albert Einstein. It really is.
No. It means I've been around a long time. And I started treating patients in dental school in 1968. So I've been treating patients now 50 years.
Yes.
And so I'm just getting started. I just signed a 10-year lease.
Dude, you look better shape than I am. You look young as heck. You're full of life. I mean, I could see you keep going for a long time.
I do some extreme exercise. This Saturday, I'm doing the Cactus to Clouds hike. The hike is from Palm Springs at elevation 400 feet. You start at the Palm Springs Art Museum. There's a trail that goes up to the top of San Jacinto Mountain.
Oh, you're kidding.
And so the hike is 21 miles long, and you go up 10,400 feet in elevation gain.
That is so crazy.
And so this will be my third time, and I really enjoy it. It's Backpacking Magazine rates it as the most difficult day hike in the entire world.
Dude.
There's no other place where we have a desert floor right next to a mountain that's 10,800 feet high.
Is that where the tram goes up?
Yeah, the trail goes up to the top of the tram, and then you go another 5 miles to the top of 5.5 to the top of San Jacinto. So, unfortunately, this is not live, or I could invite anyone that wants to join me. We're starting at the Art Museum at 3:00 in the morning Saturday, and then we'll get back down to the museum probably by 7 or 8 in that evening.
That's so good for you. Look at you. That's I get tired on that tram just going to the top, just sitting on the tram. That's terrible.
Anyway, it's a lot of fun.
So, that's so cool.
But I think hiking exercise is what we're designed to do.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this now 20 years, and I've got my resting pulse down to 37.
Oh, man.
And my triglycerides down to 30. And it's all from 8, 10, 20-mile hikes doing every week.
Well, I got baby steps. I'm doing 1 mile a day, 1.1 every day. And it's the start. And I'm tired at the end of every time. But, hey, you got to start somewhere. And, God made your body to move. It's not that I'm hereditary so much at work. I mean, I come 10, 12-hour days sitting, and then I go home and sit, and then I'll play the drums. But I gotta exercise as I get older, and then I'm eating, fatty stuff and drinking beer, and it's like, dude, I ain't gonna make 60 if I keep doing it. So I gotta see my grandkids. So I'm changing it up, but it's baby steps. And hats off to you, man.
Dentistry is a sedentary type of profession, and but in that regard, 8 years ago, we started an annual event for dental students at SC. I challenged them to a hike up Black Star Canyon out by Irvine Lake. And we just had it just a few weeks ago was our 8th annual, and we had 125 students show up.
Oh, you're kidding.
And we have a race up 8K. It's a 5-mile course up the canyon. It's with a 10% grade. And then we have a hiking group as well. And it's a race, hiking. And so we pass out scholarships for the winners, and we have a picnic afterwards, and it's a great event.
Oh, you're kidding.
And so the students have kind of taken it over. One of my associates, Andrew Vo, was a recent grad from SC, and He and I started it 8 years ago,
No kidding.
and it's been going ever since.
Well, let me know if I can help out with a sponsor or anything.
That'd be great. We have Patterson is our main sponsor,
Oh, okay.
and we pass out typically about $18,000-$19,000 in scholarships,
No kidding.
and so it's
I'd love to help sponsor some of those new young dentists. You never know; they might try my laboratory down the line.
well. I tell you that the students are have Patterson ringing in their ears.
Yeah. With
For the because they sponsor us, and it's a great thing for Patterson.
No, that's neat.
And for the students, they love it. They get out fresh air, and they're about half of them out there are females. So it's a big social thing, and the guys like to show off in front of the gals.
Oh,
And
Black Star up there. I mean, don't they have like waterfalls up there or something? Or?
there is a waterfall whenever there's some rain.
Yeah.
And but the waterfall is a side trail off. We don't go by the waterfall.
Yeah.
We stay on the main trail, and it's a beautiful hike. A lot of oak trees down low, and
Oh yeah.
And
we lived in Irvine for 25 years, and we'd go up there all the time,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful, and just there's some little sneaky areas you can go to. And my sons they're adults now, but yeah, I think I got calls a few times. They're up in this area here at Blackstone. It's like, they're not supposed to be. Well, come and get them. You know, back there in Northwood High School is where they went, and that's right up towards the far end up there off the 5. But that's so neat, man. That's good for you. I say, man, look at this guy. You look like a spring chicken, dude. You got all your hair. You're looking good.
well, I don't have as much hair as you do. You
No,
guys-
mine's long. I'm saying up top, man, you were thick, dude. No, oh, that's so neat.
But we're having a good time. We have, in my practice, I have most of my staff has been with me anywhere from 35 to 42 years.
Beautiful.
And in fact, some of them are with me with Dan Gordon in Santa Ana, and they stayed
you're
with
kidding.
him. So, yeah, I have some people that have been with me since 1976. And
That's so important. I mean, we
yeah.
have staff too, but been with me the whole time, and it's like a Super Bowl team. It's like the NFL when you have that core together. Like every day, we're all on the same page, and it's just so neat. And you take care of your employees, and you treat them like family, and they stay with you, and you're just on your A game every day. And it's just it's such a neat thing. And
no, there's absolutely nothing better than having staff with you that been with you for decades, many decades.
exactly.
And there are dentists that try to do a turnover because of vesting in a retirement plan or whatever, and it's counterproductive. You're so much better off keeping tins and trying to find new ones and train them and
Exactly.
it just
It
and
really-
and the patients recognize it too. We have people that move out of the area and then they 20 years later they move back in and they come in, it's the same people.
Exactly.
And so they really
Or they'll come and fly in for dentistry because
Yeah.
I have certain doctors that have people flying that have left, and they still stick with them, and they'll come on in for a weekend or whatever, a few days, and no, that's it. You know, you treat your people good, you treat your patients good, and you'll never have to worry about growing a practice because things will just happen. You know, do the right thing and do good dentistry, and it's so neat when I hear this and see this. So that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about something in your favorite procedures. What's your go-to thing that you really like? Do you like doing endo? Do you like doing full rehabs? What makes your eye twinkle a little bit when you?
Well, I limit my practice to prosthodontics, so I refer out all the perio, endo, oral surgery. As a prosthodontist, I can place implants, but I work with an oral surgeon in the building that I have a good relationship with, and I prefer to have him do it.
Perfect. So all pros, they're kind of like that. They'll just do the prosthodontics and kind of service out like all the endo, everything else, and just pretty much.
It would be unethical for me to announce that I limit my practice to prosthodontics and then start doing root canals. So the last root canal I did was in 1970 when I graduated. so it's it's lucky for the patients I haven't done any recently. But it's an ethical thing. When you announce a limitation of practice, you should limit it to what you announce. And
what about I got oral surgeons that send me all sorts of crown and bridge? I mean, they should not be doing that. I mean,
well, there is an ethical issue there if they announce themselves as an oral surgeon and they're doing prosthodontic procedures. But their comment will be, well, prosthodontists are now putting in implants. So, but the prosthodontic specialty has been rewritten over the last 3 years, last few years, not last 3 years, to include surgical placement dental implants, and the 3-year prosthetic programs across the country include surgical placement of implants in the 3-year program.
Is that what a residency of prosthetics usually is, like a 3-year thing?
Yes. When I did it in 1970, it was 2 years.
Okay.
But we didn't have computers. We didn't have implants. We didn't have anything.
Yeah.
And we were making dentures and doing bridges and doing porcelain face crowns. And we had harmony ponics. And
pin ledges.
Pin ledges. Yeah, I was doing 3/4 pin ledges on anterior teeth.
Didn't believe that.
And gold foils.
Any foils, I was going to say.
Yeah. And so those were, I mean, my God, I'm dating myself, but those were the days. And now all the programs for any of the specialties are 3 years, where before they were 2.
Good. No, that's good. I think it's great. And I think they should have more lab work like the old timers, new dental schools. They don't even touch on any of that or any of the business part of it. It's just, I just think, I don't know, younger dentists are good, but I just think some of these old school guys that really, really, did a great job, and they do a lot of gold work, and they do what lasts and what works. And now everything's kind of fancy smancy with this all ceramics and stuff. But I mean, they're getting stronger, and it's a neat thing. But yet there's less education, it seems like, in these dental schools when they're coming out nowadays. But
well, the curriculum's crowded. I've been on the SC board of counselors now 26 years.
No kidding.
And we meet with the dean 4 times a year and a 3-day weekend mixed in there. And we go over the curriculum, and it's crowded.
Yeah.
You've got just 4 years to get,
Oh, yeah.
And so they don't do a full dissection on a cadaver like we used to do. They don't wax teeth. They don't set denture teeth. They don't do a lot of things. They don't do their own lab work because there just isn't time for it.
Yeah.
And so they're using digital equipment. They're scanning. They're doing CAD CAM. They're really
switching it up. 21st century, but I don't know if it's anything better than it was. But it's just something, and it's like $400,000 or $500,000 for the darn course. I mean,
the average debt for a student graduating from USC School of Dentistry is $500,000.
$500,000.
That's the average. And there was a kid that graduated rather recently. He went to undergrad at SC, to dental school, and then to orthodontics for 3 years. And he has a $1 million debt for student debt. $1 million.
Unbelievable.
Now, the good news is that the maximum you're required to pay each year is 10% of your income. So if you start off slow and you don't have much income, you pay 10% of it to your student loan. And if you do 10% of your income for 25 years or whatever it is, that might be 20, 25 or something like that, then the balance is waived.
Unbelievable.
So this guy that owes $1 million, if he pays 10% of his income for the next 20, 25 years, whatever's left of that million gets written off. You can also go into underserved areas and get a remission of some of your student debt if you practice in areas that are underserved. And so there's a number of items to help out with that. But it's a lot of debt. And my concern is that these kids coming out of dental school that much in debt, they end up working for corporate dentistry and
cutting everything that comes in that chair, probably, because they have to make that nut,
Yeah, it's really a problem. I don't know if I'm going to get sued for comments on corporate dentistry, but the owners of the corporate dental office are into return on investment. Yeah. More so than ethical dentistry.
Oh, I know. They can't even touch my lab because they want stuff at $69. It's all about the money and the dollar and what they can get in and get out. And it's a
tough deal because I feel sorry for the dentist because they go in there and they're an employee and not running their practice. They're told what to do, what patients to see, and what to do. I mean, what treatment to provide. They don't get a voice in that in many instances. And so it's a difficult situation.
That's crazy. Back to the, say when you're checking into dentists and peer review, whatever, and all that, what do you see as most of the problems? Are they cutting down teeth when they shouldn't? Or what is it, like the teeth need endo and they're restoring them, open margins? What did you see most of what the neglect that they were doing? Is it across the board or?
What the dental board is most interested in is fraud and gross negligence, things like that. the dental board doesn't have the time to get into.
If that tooth was alive and this and all that.
Well, they don't get into fits of crowns, things like that. Okay. I mean, they're just there's a limited number of investigators they have, so they are going after the fraud. And so there are cases where one relatively famous case was UPS got a dental program for all of their employees that paid 100%. So this dentist, which will remain unnamed, gathered up UPS people and actually paid them to come in so that he could bill 100%.
Max it out.
And he would pay them to bring in their friends that worked for UPS, and ended up scamming, billing for procedures that were never even done to the tune of $700,000. So it's that kind of fraud that the dental board is upset with. And the case that I mentioned before, we had records showing that the dentist was taking perfectly healthy teeth with no decay, no fracture, and drilling right into the pulp to create the need for root canals.
Yeah, that was nuts. Yeah.
So, and extracting beautiful molars just to get dental implants.
Unbelievable.
So that's what the dental board is most interested in. Is the
knucklehead criminal type.
It's outright, and in some cases, in fact, the written into the accusation was battery. In other words, it was not only gross negligence, incompetence, multiple acts of negligence, fraud, and all this, but also battery. Yeah. And battery is when you treat a tooth that doesn't need treating and you don't have an informed consent to treat it. So the dentist put in first molar to first molar restorations, full coverage restorations, and the occlusion was off. So instead of adjusting the restorations, the dentist ground down the opposing teeth on the lower, which were pristine teeth that needed no treatment at all. And because the pain persisted, the dentist kept adjusting the bite further and further to the point where when the patient was examined by an investigator or a consultant for the dental board, the only teeth in occlusion were the second molars. And all the lower teeth that were abused needed restoration. So that's the kind of stuff the dental board gets really. So if the patient ends up with a few crowns that need redoing because they didn't fit quite right,
that's
not going to generate an accusation from the dental board, because it costs them about $100,000 to follow through a 5-year process of going all the way with a particular dentist.
No. That's amazing. Yeah, I had a thing years back, probably 5-6 years ago, and I was in a trademark thing and with another lab, and it was over a name, and I had this company for trademark, like the top company called Kenobi Martin, and so I didn't even know this till recently, but it was neat that you were the expert thing, and it was just on a name, and a generic name, and it was kind of neat. At the end of it all, through a few years, 2.5 years, they came back and we had won the case. And so thank you for your professional.
Well, you're most welcome. And it was one of the few cases that I've been involved with as an expert witness that did not involve direct patient treatment of a particular patient.
No kidding.
So I've always been an expert for the plaintiff or the defense, and it's over a particular case that was treated. And in your situation, it was over a trademark, and there were no patient names, there were no dentists per se, and it was a whole new experience.
But you gave you broke it down, and Judge Carter, man, he's a 9th District judge, like top judge, and he's a really smart guy, Marine, and he's a bulldog, and I just learned so much in that whole experience. But he listened to you, man, and it was like, blam, summary judgment to Keating Dental Arts. I'm like, thank you, Lord.
So anyway, it was a good experience, and
thank you for that. It was a learning experience for me, and it was just a great thing. But to have you was part of it, and I heard about you and learned a lot about you then, and I've always heard about you. Didn't you do some stuff with like Sheets and Paquette and stuff back in the day, or no? Or I thought you had like a certain group of doctors, maybe it's a study club you had or something, but there's a certain group of dentists out there in Newport. You guys are just real well known throughout the nation. It's just kind of a neat thing.
Well, Dan Gordon had a study group, and Dr. Sheets and Paquette each have a study group that's separate from that.
Okay.
So, and then there was the Newport Harbor Academy, which a lot of people in the Newport there were involved with, and that has just recently disbanded.
Okay.
It had been around for decades, and Carl Reeder was the one that ran that, and it's been retired.
Do you remember Dr. Schwartz, Ken Schwartz?
Sure.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I did his work for 30 years, and he retired recently. And but what a great guy! I see him walking over by that little hut, the Palms dates and the Shake Shack over on PCH, and he's just a great guy, and his wife, and oh man, that's a small world. It's just really neat.
Well, Newport's a great place to practice because there's just a lot of dentists and a lot of personalities and a lot of really great people, and we have fun. We cover for each other. We help each other, and it's people would think that we're competitive, but it's not. So there are dentists in our Newport area. When I'm on vacation, they'll kind of keep. Well, I have enough dentists in the office to cover, but they kind of keep track. And if it's a solo practice, I'll cover them for when they're on vacation. And so we try to, and we learn something new. We can't wait to meet with the other dentists in our area and tell them about it. So it's that kind of a relationship.
And I think you could really do a really neat thing out there. I mean, you're just so knowledgeable in the area. In this area, so most dentists are like, "Hey, we're doing this and that, prepping this way, this and that." But with what you bring, you bring a full, vast knowledge of all aspects of dentistry. But to really practice proper dentistry, this and that, I mean, I think dentists need to hear it more, like what, you should be doing and not be doing. And, you can have, consequences that'll be very detrimental if you go this route. And I don't know, I just think some knowledge like this, I think this will be well received. Like guys will listen to it, like, let's listen to this guy, what shouldn't do,
Yeah, there's some great study groups out. And then the schools put on great CE programs and the California Dental Association and so forth. There's a lot of continuing education out there for dentists can avail themselves of. And the study groups are fun. And one of the dentists in my office, Dr. Laura Wittenauer, has a study group that meets on a regular basis. And it's just great. It's an exchange of ideas, and it's not like one person is just lecturing. Yeah. The whole group strings information in.
Well, that's awesome that you said you're so humble. I mean, it's like, no. Okay, well, let me find out this. What has been your marketing strategy? I mean, do you do any mailers? Do you do any social media? Is it word of mouth, just referrals from existence through the years? How do you drive so much people to your practice?
Well, it's word of mouth is the main thing, and that's the biggest one because it's so much more emphatic than what someone might see in a mailer or ad. But I have an office brochure that lists that has pictures of all the staff and each of the dentists and before and after dental treatments, and it has the bio of everyone on our staff. I think patients bond to the staff as much or more than the dentist.
Absolutely.
And so when they pick up an office brochure and they see each and every one of the dental assistants and the lab techs and the hygienists, the front office people, all biographed in that document or in that brochure, and it's a 38-page brochure, then they really like that. They find out the background of each of the staff, where they trained, how many years they've been doing it, what their social activities are as far as hobbies and so forth, and their charity work. And it's really
you got a smoking hot website, and just we got to put that on this podcast so that the people can just click on it and just to see, that you're set up and just, even to your bio, I swear it's 8 pages long. It's so neat. It's just,
Well, the only thing I do is this office brochure and our webpage.
Perfect.
And that's it. I know a lot of dentists do newsletters and have open houses and all kinds of social media on Facebook but I just, maybe I'm kind of a dinosaur in that respect because I'm not into the social media that I probably should be. I'm just not.
You've done so much. I think you should put it out there just so people can see what you're all about and what you've done a lot for dentistry in the last 50 years, man. I mean, really have. And I think people should see that, especially in the dental world. I think there's a lot of other podcasters that are going to hear this and they're going to say, "Hey, let's get Dr. Eggleston on this."
Well, I do. I have the website, and then along with it, I have a blog.
Oh, okay. We'll have to put your blog up too.
And
sure.
the blog is kind of fun because I've had a few adventures here and there, and so on the blog I've put those on. I've gone up Kilimanjaro twice, and I've been in a hurricane in a 45-foot boat, and I've been, a number of things that have created some interest. And the hurricane I was in, I wrote a story on that, and it got published in Western Outdoor News. Got a lot of feedback on that. We're lucky to be here. We were in a Category 4, 140-mile-an-hour winds. In a 45-foot boat.
Dude, I got a 54-foot boat, and I get a little rough over the backside of Catalina. I'm ready to call that Coast Guard. Come get me.
Yeah. No, we were in a storm.
10-foot waves, man. Yeah. It's nuts.
We were in a storm that sank over 100 boats.
Oh, dude.
And killed a bunch of people. And so it was 2003, Hurricane Marty in Baja, California.
Oh, you're kidding.
Sea of Cortez. And we were saying goodbye to each other. I mean, it was
unbelievable. What kind of boat was it?
Well, unfortunately, it was a 45-foot Bayliner, and they have a very rounded bottom.
Yeah,
there are no kinds. If you're aware of what that is on a hull, yeah. And so they roll like crazy.
Yeah,
and so we were in. It started out as a true gale, and we had a long way to go to get back to the marina. And so, but we couldn't go directly because we'd have rolled over. So we had to tack into it and tack out of it.
Unbelievable.
And it was at night. And so, I mean, it was just the boat was going airborne over these waves.
Can you believe that?
It was very exciting. And
I would have been yakking because I get seasick. I got a boat. I get seasick. It's just stupid. But 45-footer and that bad of a hurricane, I just can't believe you made it through that. Man.
No, it was the full force of the hurricane hit when we made it into the marina. And then there are 3 marinas at that time in La Paz, and it wiped out 2 of them. Yeah. The boats just blew away from the moorings or the slips, and they all piled up and sank.
Can you believe it?
And so we were in the one marina that managed to survive for the most part.
Oh,
and
that was the good Lord looking down upon you, man.
Well, I think
I see a little halo over that silver hair of yours, baby.
I think when it comes to hurricanes, nature has a lot of indifference.
Yes,
and so anyway, right after that, my wife says, just like the movie Jaws, we need a bigger boat.
Yeah, exactly.
So now we have a 57-footer that's twice the weight and 3 times the power.
Oh.
And so
what kind is that one?
Well, I got it's a Meridian. It's a 57-foot.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And so
I got a Bertram, man. It's a battle wagon.
The best. Oh yeah.
It's just a battle wagon. I even put a Seakeeper in it, so to try to keep it from the roll. And you got to try those Seakeepers.
No, I put one in.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I put one in a year ago.
Oh, I love it.
It's unbelievable.
What a difference. I mean, you can go on the kelp and just fish and not get the roll, and it's just so nice.
Yeah, people listening to this probably don't know what we're talking about, but the Seakeeper is a gyro. And the one I have weighs 1 ton, and it spins at 9,000 RPM.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it spins in a vacuum to help maintain its momentum. And it has hydraulics, so when it senses the boat's going to roll to the right, then the hydraulics push the gyro to the left, and the boat stays steady. So when you're in the trough or swells, the boat just goes up and down. It doesn't roll.
Yeah.
That doesn't help pitching much, but it helps the roll, and that's where people get
That's
seasick.
where they get the sick. And
Yeah.
I've told so many people about it. I don't even know all that. So
Yeah.
I know it costs $100,000.
Yeah, I did. Okay, it was that or a second Tesla, one or the other.
Oh.
And so anyway, my wife was all for it because she gets seasick, and now we can invite anyone out on the boat. It's just absolutely unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
So,
do you do it up with the parade in the harbor and stuff, or no?
yeah, I do, but I kept a boat in La Paz for 18 years, and I just brought it back.
Oh, beautiful.
2 years ago.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, and back in the 90s when I had a boat here, I did the boat parade and the Hogue Hospital fishing tournaments and all that.
Yeah.
So it's fun to get back into some of that here in this area. But
I'm down in Dana Point, but we
Yeah.
do. It's a much smaller marina, but we did the boat parade a couple years ago. We took it down to Newport, and it was neat. We got best new entry, and my captain took like 2 weeks to do the boat up and did the outriggers, and I have marlins on each side, these 12-foot stickered marlins on my boat, a little big marlin fisherman, and so we did the lights around it. But it's pretty neat. We love it, and I'm the big fish down at Dana Point. You go down to Newport, and I'm just the little fish. I mean,
no, you got a nice sized boat, and so no, it's a lot of fun. So that I think it's important. We get so wrapped up in dentistry. We need to do. We need to have other activities, and boating is certainly one of them.
Oh, it's beautiful. We just love going out looking at the whales and the dolphins. My wife, just right out front, and even if we just go sit on the back and just look out, and where we're at, it's the boat launch area, so we see all the guys launching their boats, and that's a character to watch. These guys, they're bringing the whole car into the water, they're not getting it on, and the wives and the husbands are yelling, and we just sit there with a beer and watch it, and it's like entertaining. It's like the best spot in the whole marina.
No,
it's like right there.
It's when they forget the plug. That's funny.
I did that once. I had a ski boat. We're at Lake Paris. I had a Bayliner, a little 21-foot Capri open bow, and our boys were probably 6 and 4, and my wife, and I'm out there in Paris, and I'm just loving it. And all of a sudden, the whole boat is like back in the water, and Shannon goes, "We're sinking." And I go, "Oh no, the plug!" And so I had to go into the water, underneath the water, and put it in and screw it, then come back up, get air, go back down, and screw it some more. And so many dumb things. And I remember one time I was driving by my neighborhood, and I see my buddies in their cul-de-sac like, "Hey," and then I stopped and I just backed it up because I wanted to go back down the cul-de-sac. I just didn't look back, and I just backed up, and that dang thing jackknifed. And I put a big dent in the back. There's so many dumb things. And one time I remember pulling in this gas station, and I went around the back, and there was no exit out the back, so I tried to get back out, and I'm just dumb. I'm dyslexic or whatever. Go right turn to go left, left to go right, and I couldn't get the thing out. And we actually had to unhook it from the hitch and push the boat. And, I'm not a real good boat guy. That's why I got a captain, man, because I'm just not real good at it. But
having a captain's cool.
yeah, it's a must too, because you get a DUI on a boat just like a car. You can't be drinking beer, and you get pulled over, they'll make you blow just like in a car. And so it's just, and plus the responsibility. I mean, my boat's like 70 tons. You don't want to be rolling into the rocks or into the. It's just nuts, but a lot of fun. Well, Guy, man, that's such a neat thing. We got to do another pod. I mean, we should do the dental the Dental Up podcast, education, with Dr. Eggleston. I mean, on different subjects and stuff. I'd love to have you on here.
Happy to do it.
Yeah. I mean, because I'd love to just even talk about a day in the practice. I mean, what do you like, when you do your full rehabs? I mean, you ever do them like in 3 or 4 days, or it's just long process? I'm not.
There are times that with a VIP patient, you need to do it. I mean, they're in for a few days and then they're out.
Yeah. And prep on Tuesday, seated on Thursday. I do a lot of those. And even here we have an operatory and all that. But if it's all done properly, and we got pre-models and wax ups and even custom temps, it's kind of a neat thing. It really is. But there is a lot of time planning cases and stuff, but is that mostly what you do? A lot of bigger stuff, or?
Yeah, we do it as a prosthodontist. There are a lot of full mouth rehabs, a lot of redos, a lot of some of minor. Some of I do my redos, and so, but it's yeah. It and then we do a lot of single tooth dentistry as well, and but under pressure, probably the one that would be the most fun. I treated a head of state in the Middle East, and had to fly there. Arrive on a Tuesday evening, and it had to be done by Friday.
Oh, you're kidding.
Crown on every tooth.
And you had to use their lab, or
no? I was able to. I brought 18 pieces of luggage with lab work, the lab supplies, and I brought my lab tech.
Oh, dude.
And we went 24/7 around the clock and got it done.
What did you do? Hand stacked feldspathics or something, or?
Well, it was in the 1980s, so it was all PFMs.
Okay.
And so the first night I arrived, we prepped all the upper teeth. And spent the night waxing it up, and the next day putting on the porcelain. And so in 24 hours, they put the upper teeth in and prepped the lowers. And then we had actually a couple days to do the lower.
Oh,
and but it was a deadline that was.
That's awesome.
So
we should do an over the shoulder here. You can come in mine, and we'll pack the house. I mean, I've had Coy's here, and Hornbrick used to do a bunch for me, and I've had a lot of dentists come through the doors here, and we just do it on it's usually a Thursday, Friday, or Friday, Saturday. Doctors come in, we'll prep it up, and we'll have it all ready to temporize them, show them how to temp it, and then it'll go off to the lab. We work on it that night, and boom, next day we see them, and everyone comes in. Yeah. It's kind of a neat thing, but
Are you doing those with scanning or doing with?
We've done them with scanning recently, but mostly it's just conventional impressions. And we go in, it's mostly like a lot of EMAX. We're usually doing veneers and full coverage, but now we just have our techs, they'll work through the night, just instead of working in the daytime, we'll have our senior techs will come in and, that's all set up. But I've done a lot of them, and they've all worked out. And sometimes we'll do 2 sets just to make sure, but we've never used the second set ever. But it's kind of neat, and just the dentists, we have it up to a limit of 15 dentists, but they're chair side, and they really see it, and they can get in next to the chair next to them, and it's just a real neat thing on how to, do 12 or 14 teeth. It's usually 10 or 12 up top, 10 or 12 on the bottom, but kind of, pre-screen patients and all that, and we love it because a lot of my techs and employees here, man, they've got a lot of new, fresh grills, but we need a patient. So, and then it's like the lab work's free too. And it's like, it's kind of neat, but we'd love to have you. And just such a joy to talk to someone so smart in the dental world and so humble too. You're a real humble guy, and just, man, you're the man, and I can't thank you enough for coming on my podcast.
Well, thank you. No, I enjoyed it.
All right, we'll talk to you. Hey, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us on the Dental Up Podcast Show this week. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or search the Dental Up Podcast on iTunes for our weekly feed. Don't forget to visit KeatingDentalArts.com/promo for exclusive offers. Keating Dental Arts is a full-service dental laboratory, and we're nationwide. We'd love for you to send us a case so we can show you the Keating difference. If you dig what you heard, please leave a review on iTunes, and we'll be back next week.